One of the greatest games of all time, arguably. One of the highest selling games of all time. Skyrim. Why is it so persistent? There's been a video that's been in my feed over and over and it's been so persistent and it won't go away. And it's about time I watch this video, because Skyrim to me means more than a lot of games. It's one of those games I put countless and countless hours into, and love or hate the game, it is iconic and it is one of the GOATs. Well, at least I think so. So let's watch this video and figure out exactly what's going on.
Skyrim is one of the biggest games of all time.
Yep.
It has received high acclaim from reviewers and players alike, been re-released so many times that I've lost count, and
It's
sold
crazy.
over 60 million copies across
I don't know.
all
Hold
platforms.
on. My pause button isn't working. I don't know exactly how many times it's been released, but it's unfathomable. And I feel like this game, before Skyrim, I didn't really like pay attention or get annoyed with games when they were remade. But after Skyrim has been remade on the Switch and on it was on Xbox 360, then One, then Xbox Series X. You know, same thing goes for PlayStation throughout the generations. You know, they had their anniversary. It's crazy. I own probably Skyrim on more consoles and more formats than any other game. It's incredible, honestly.
Sales data for games is exact or public, as it's on the publishers or devs to report it, but of all the information that's out there, this makes it the 8th best-selling.
Wow. So it doesn't matter if it's remastered or anything, they just pile it all into one. 8th is lower than I expected.
And what's most impressive about that is that it's one of only 2 games in the top 10 that's single.
I've never played The Witcher. Let me know down below if it's worthy of playing.
Single player only. Since its release, it has been a force to be reckoned with and has changed the gaming landscape forever. Throughout the years, it's inspired countless artists, memers, video essayists, game developers, and of course modders, all of whom have kept the game alive in various ways. And to this day, it still has a...
I gotta make a quick point. I think, honestly, the modding is what did it for me, because on Xbox 360, we didn't have the mods right at launch and everything. You know, you had the base game. And then later on, they released the anniversary edition where they had the mods included into console gaming, which was unheard of, because I always heard of these mods you could play, but I wasn't a PC gamer. So, you know, I didn't have access to that because, you know, PC gaming just seemed really complicated. I didn't know anything about computers. So when they put those mods into the console version, it was crazy, and it felt worth repurchasing the game to play it that way, you know? And I think that's the reason Skyrim's model has done so well, because that first anniversary where they implemented the mods, it pretty much made it so that, you know, buyers were okay with, you know, a remastered edition. They weren't blinking their eyes and looking at it in a weird way like how people do all the time now. And then when they launched, you know, more remasters or different formats and stuff like that, people were more accessible, not accessible, they were more willing to buy the remaster because of the first time. They're like, you know, it was worth it, right? You know, I love Skyrim. It's a timeless game, and in my opinion, it is. A lot of people might not like this game. I haven't met anyone that's played Skyrim say they didn't like it, but I know people that don't like these type of games in general, right? So
massive player base.
But we're going to cover the topic.
20,000 concurrent players across its Steam versions alone. It is beloved in a way few games ever are, and I often find myself wondering why.
The music, baby. Woo! Oh man, I was getting into it.
The answer I expect a lot of you will have to this question is simply
Jarl.
that it's a great game. And okay, look, I'm not going to claim that everything about Skyrim is terrible. It's not, but there's a lot in it that's really not great.
I think the gameplay is probably the biggest thing that's not the greatest, in my opinion. But dude, is it satisfying. When I first played Skyrim, there was nothing like it that I played before that even came close to it. So I feel like this was just... For me, it was just so revolutionary. It was awesome.
What makes this notable is that some of the stuff that I would say are the worst aspects of the game are
the
also
best.
arguably some of the most important.
Yep.
For instance, the combat. It is one of the main pillars of the title, and it's kind of a mess.
It is.
Feels floaty and unresponsive.
But it's fun.
So landing a hit doesn't even feel satisfying.
Nope.
And as enemy AI is pretty bare bones, fights largely boil down to just spamming the attack button in the hopes you'll outdamage whatever you're going against.
Yep.
You may occasionally need to block or take a few steps back to avoid a hit, but even then it still ends up being pretty mindless, and can be further trivialized by making or buying a lot of health potions.
Bro, I think I had like 10 playthroughs before I even knew if you ate like ingredients, it would show you the ingredients, like what they would do. It's crazy. There's so much in the game, like you don't even have to even touch, and it's still fun.
Also feels unsatisfying due to scaling issues, and can be incredibly frustrating because of how easy it is to accidentally do damage to allies or just any person hanging around.
I think the scaling part is actually huge because there's so many glitches, and later on when you find out these glitches, like for instance, the first glitch you can think of probably is the cave glitch, where you sneak in the cave and you hit the guy that you're with in the back, and it improves your sneak damage and improves your weapon, or not damage, but your sneak skill ability, and you can level up really fast that way. A little tedious, but then you can come out of the cave just OP, and you didn't use mods, you know, so it doesn't like break your achievements or anything like that. Which always annoyed me. I didn't want to use mods because of achievements and stuff like that. But then it's like you put the level up all the way to the highest to like counterbalance because you're already higher leveled. But the scaling is weird. I wish they would take away the level, like from novice to whatever it is, like legendary. If they took that away and just made one really hard level, like almost Souls-like, I think it would actually be more enjoyable, because you would be less likely to start a new playthrough because you're bored or whatever it might be. You know, you just want to keep playing the game and finish the game.
Latter can be especially annoying, as in some instances it leads to people attacking you. Like when I was doing the vampire quest near Morthal, I had Thonir join me, and whenever I would use Bane of the Undead, the area of effect would hit him too, giving me a bounty and causing him to go after me as if there wasn't a master vampire right in front of us.
That is so freaking annoying.
All in all, while your attacks may get stronger and your defense is more effective, you're never really challenged to engage with the combat any differently by the end than you are at the beginning, creating a flat experience.
Yep.
Another rough spot with the game can be seen with the role-playing itself. While you do have tons of choices in terms of what quests you engage with, more often than not, there aren't all that many interesting choices once you've started a quest line. And in the instances where you are given a choice, it often ends up lacking nuance and suitable options.
I think this is the main thing that I have a gripe with Bethesda, and it's the reason I haven't played Starfield much since it came out. I played it for like 15-20 minutes or so. I didn't even get past like the intro. But it's just their writing style is like bland almost. But in Skyrim, you're in a whole world that you really never experienced before. So I feel like it's easy to look over the writing style because of the customization you're able to do in the game, which is really fun. Now, when you're doing that with the space game, it actually, I think, hurts itself a lot more because it's a lot more boring. With the space game, you think of sci-fi. When you think of sci-fi, you think of great movies because the writing's good, right? The original Star Wars trilogy or whatever it might be. So when you have bad writing in a space game, it's kind of you need more of a draw. Like for instance, Dead Space 2 or Dead Space the first game, they're a lot of fun because you know it's jarring, and you know the story's not bad, it's good, but it's different than, you know, Starfield.
One of
But we're not talking about Starfield.
Players will likely come
Focus on
across
this.
is a prime example of this.
Okay.
Upon reaching Riverwood, you come across Sven and Faendal, two
Yeah.
inhabitants of the village who are in love with the same woman,
Yep.
Camilla.
I love this.
Everyone you talk to first will ask you to deliver a fake letter to Camilla filled with rude and heinous things, and then tell her it was sent from the other. From there, you can give her the letter and either lie or tell the truth about who wrote it, or you can show it to the suitor you haven't talked to yet, who will then give you a fake letter of his own.
Always give the freaking letter to the elf, bro. He can level your archery up real quick.
To give to Camilla and also tell you to say was from the other. Now, once you have both letters, you have to make a choice between who you want to sell out, Sven or Faendal.
Bro, I've messed up because I played this game so many times, and I would accidentally do the wrong one because I'm a fucking idiot and I don't read half the time, so this shit was annoying as hell.
Sucks.
Yeah.
The quest makes it clear that both these guys are scumbags, but once you reach the point of figuring that out, there is no way to tell Camilla about it. So you either have to pick a side and let her continue to spend time with someone that's manipulating her, or you just do nothing, neither of which feels like a satisfying end if you are trying to play as a moral.
But it is satisfying once you understand the game and you understand one can be a companion. It is a lot satisfying. You know, it's like this obvious choice of what you want to do. It's optimal.
And these kinds of decisions are pretty commonplace.
Yeah.
More often than not, you are extremely limited in the responses you can have to any given situation, and the options you are posed with often don't account for information you've uncovered, all of which makes it hard to develop any sort of personality for your character. Most of the time, you have to pick between two bad choices. These two aspects of the game design feel especially noteworthy because Skyrim is an action role-playing game, yet its action and role-playing are both fairly lackluster.
So I'm thinking, this topic, I feel like this relates to KOTOR. So KOTOR, you can make choices and you have that scale, you know, become a bad guy or become a good guy, right? And it shows you the meter. And so in this game, it's not like that at all. You really don't have a bad guy or good guy meter at all. It's just picking, you know, choosing what quests and stuff like that changes the outcome of everything, which I'm cool with. You know, I like the meter, but it also, the meter, you know, good or bad, it has its pros and cons too. Plus this game is huge. The amount of dialogue is crazy, especially since all of it's voiceover. Well, majority of it is. And dude, this came out so long ago, it's not even funny. So I can look over that.
People will point out that Skyrim is a 13-year-old game, so it obviously is going to be rough around the edges in some ways. And yeah, sure, that is true to a degree. But these specific issues don't really have much to do with limitations in tech or design knowledge. There are
I guess, but dude, bro, back in the day, Skyrim was a huge file. It really was. Like, the game is huge. I don't know how optimized, you know, the memory is or anything like that, but I just remember Skyrim taking up a huge chunk of my my memory on my console. It for its time, I think it is a huge game.
There are plenty of titles from that era that did these elements much better, and a bunch of them were published by Bethesda. For example, Dishonored dropped just a year after Skyrim, and it provided exciting and satisfying first-person melee combat that allowed for tons of player expression due to its movement options and Corvo's supernatural abilities. Even a few years before that, Dark Messiah of Might and Magic had an incredible combat system that rewarded creativity and observation of the environment while also having solid and varied swordplay. As for the role-playing side of things, Fallout New Vegas released in
I didn't play either of those two games, but I love Fallout.
2010 and
Fallout's
has long
amazing.
been praised as one of the most well-written, interesting, and robust role-playing experiences of has long been.
You said New Vegas, right?
As for the role-playing side of things,
yeah, it's New Vegas.
And robust role-playing experiences of all
Such
time.
A good game.
The point is, they had the ability to create deeper.
I think New Vegas definitely did that better. By far. And I don't know how Bethesda works, if they're just working on one game at a time or if it's multiple studios and then they have like the finished polish team, you know, that comes in once the one game is launched and ready to go and they move on to the next project. I'm not sure exactly. And I'm guessing it's the latter.
And more fulfilling
make more
combat
sense.
And role-playing systems. They just chose not to.
Yeah.
My list of issues with the game goes on and on, ranging from the overly simplistic puzzles to the level scaling to the tedium of travel.
Bro, the first time I played Skyrim, he was showing the Golden Claw quest. I could not figure that out for the longest time. I was so confused. And yes, I was an idiot kid playing a video game, but that shit was tricky. But I mean, now it's, you know, easy as fuck.
The annoying encumbrance system, and it all adds up to an experience that's easy to look back on as one defined by missed opportunity. Now, despite all of my criticisms, Skyrim became Skyrim, a title that will forever be seen as one of the most important games ever.
Etched into gaming lore, one of the greatest titles by popular demand. You can't argue with that. That is a fact.
That people will keep coming back to regardless of how much time has passed.
Yep.
That means something more to those who love it than most.
And the mods they have now for the graphics are crazy. It is wild. I need to get the top-notch. I need to get a top-notch computer to run that shit because it blows me away.
games could ever dream.
It's crazy.
It doesn't matter that I have issues with it because it's reached people in a way that few titles ever have or will. And again, that brings me back to the question of why Skyrim? Despite how it may seem, I'm not trying to be a hater for the sake of being a hater. This isn't meant to be me arguing that game people love bad. I don't want to try to prove to you that Skyrim never should have reached the heights it did, or that you didn't even really like it actually. I just have long felt a disconnect with the game, and genuinely want to understand how Skyrim, a title with so many shortcomings and aspects working against it, succeeded in spite of them.
I honestly think I really think that Skyrim, the reason people love it so much is because of the remastered edition, because people sunk their teeth into that game so much when it first came out, and then when they had the remastered edition, it was like a refresh on a website or something. It brought everyone back to the game that loved it originally, play it back another time, that were on console. A lot of people weren't playing video games on PCs back then. I know PC gaming has blown up, and I know it was big back in the day, but there's a lot of people that just play console, especially little kids. And yeah, I think the investment in time into the game, the actually playing time, like if you play a game for a long time, you're gonna typically think back and be like, I love that game. Like for instance, probably the top 3 games I played in my like gaming when I was a kid, right? When you're at your highest nostalgia, I guess you could say. But the games I played the most were Halo 3, Halo Reach, and Modern Warfare 2. Probably Black Ops 2, Halo 2. But like those first 3, I look back fondly on like so much. I love those games so much. Skyrim's up there too. And it's because I played those games so freaking much, right? I loved them, and so I played them more. It's with any game, right? If you play a game a lot, you typically will look back on it and be like, yeah, I love that game.
So for the past few months, I've
and it has charm.
All things to do with the game.
Charm can
interviews,
make you look
the release, and replaying it.
Charm can make you look over things. Sorry, I don't want to talk over this guy too much.
And I see things a lot clearer now. Of course, it's not the sort of thing that can be boiled down to a single answer. It's a confluence of factors, some circumstantial and some intentional, that enabled Skyrim to become the behemoth it is.
Yeah.
And I think it all begins with the audience Bethesda was aiming to capture. Most games out there have a wide range of types of fans, but I've noticed this is especially true with Skyrim. Obviously, there are plenty of longtime fantasy nerds who fell in love with it, as well
Lord
as
of the Rings,
RPG
baby.
lovers.
Hell
but
yeah.
It also grabbed the attention of a much more casual audience. This is anecdotal, but over the years, I've had many conversations with people who lean on the normie side of the spectrum, where we get on the topic of video games, and I end up asking what their top 3 favorites are.
Skyrim is up there, 100%. I actually found Skyrim from a normie that used to go to my church. We were at a church event in a hotel, and it was actually his sister that I was friends with. We went into his room for some reason. He was upperclassman, and he was playing Skyrim, and he was fighting a dragon, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Because I'm a little kid at the time. I watch that teenage dragon show, A Teenage Dragon or whatever it's called, with Jake Long. I loved that show. Loved dragons at the time. Loved Aragon came out, you know. I was trying to read I think it was Brisinga's the second book. So I love dragons. Like my gamer tag was Dragon Tamer 3000, right? And seeing that fight, bro, I was like, dude, this dragon just flew down from the sky and you're fighting it right now and it's killing the villagers and shit. Like, what? And he was like, yeah, it's an open world game, bro. I'm like, what the fuck? I was blown away. I've never seen anything like it at the time. I didn't know what Morrowind was. I was a normie gamer. I just played Halo and Modern Warfare 2, typical, you know, dude just playing, you know, 2K12, you know, Madden, stuff like that. So it blew me away by far.
And the majority of the time, their answers have been along the lines of Call of Duty, FIFA, and Skyrim. There are so many people,
I guess I'm a normie, god damn it,
Skyrim that you wouldn't have expected to play Skyrim, that don't play anything else remotely similar to Skyrim.
Yep. Bro, look at that shit. Oh, this guy's good.
Despite it being a single-player fantasy game, it appealed to these kinds of players anyway.
Now, if you're judging me right now because you're like, man, this guy's a normie, bro, he don't play shit, I'll tell you, I'm deep in the weeds now. This was more than 10 years ago, right? Come on now.
One major reason for this had less to do with the game itself and more to do with the cultural landscape of 2011, primarily how fantasy was moving into the mainstream. Fantasy is an interesting genre in that it feels niche in a lot of ways, and for a while it was, but over the past 20 years or so, it has become no longer just for the nerds. One of the biggest contributors to this shift was the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which released in the early 2000s and achieved levels of success that no one could have ever expected, creating a demand for more stories that—
Oh, freaking look at that man. Only lasts one season of Game of Thrones. R.I.P. brother. That's what I know you from.
Felt like it. This gave fantasy games a much larger target demographic to aim towards, helping many titles in that space become even more relevant. Now, the success of Lord of the Rings definitely helped Skyrim in some ways, but a different fantasy series played a much more impactful role in its success. That, of course, being Game of Thrones. The show premiered—
Hey, that's some shit, bro. This video, bro, I swear I didn't pre-watch this. Wow.
April of 2011, and was an immediate success. There were nearly 10 million—
I understand why this video was so persistent in my freaking YouTube feed for like the past month, bro. Maybe even longer than that.
Average viewers per episode, not including the many more people who pirated it. And that first season laid the foundation—
Well, pirate Game of Thrones? I guess that makes sense because they don't want an HBO membership. That's just, I never thought of that. That's weird.
Foundation for the cultural phenomenon it would eventually become. Its grounded story filled with multifaceted and relatable characters helped give it a broad appeal even with all of its fantastical elements.
Let me know, I can't even speak. Let me know, golly, goodness gracious. Let me know down below if there is a besides Elden Ring, a fantasy style game written by J.R.R. Martin. Because bro, that shit would slap. Elden Ring was a slap. One of the greatest games of all time.
Even more people who had never been interested in the genre to not only watch the show, but to also buy the books. And once folks caught up to whatever was out at the time, many wanted to keep experiencing stuff like Game of Thrones. Just 7 months after the pilot aired, Skyrim released, a game—
Bro, what? Bro, Game of Thrones is that old? Oh my god. I remember season 7 came out in was it 2016? 17? Because it was my freshman year of college. That's crazy. That because I started watching the last season. That's when I caught on to it, and I went back and watched everything from episode 1 and I caught up in like fucking, I think, a week and a half.
That takes place in a snow-covered region
2 weeks.
largely
Yeah,
inhabited by people who are seeking independence from the rulers to the south that heavily features a civil war and dragons. Obviously,
I've watched Game of Thrones all the way through, I think, about 6 times. Comment down below if you've watched it more than me.
The game wasn't inspired by the success of the show, as all of these aspects were developed long before it premiered, but some of them were definitely inspired by the books, with Todd Howard saying, "People in our studio liked it, and it seeped in a bit to what we were doing." What's more interesting is that apparently before Skyrim was in development, George R. R. Martin's team reached out to Bethesda to pitch a game set in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, but Bethesda decided they'd rather make a game in their own world, which does make the similarities between the two feel a little funny in hindsight. To be clear, the two properties have tons of differences and also a lot—
Could you have imagined Skyrim written by oh my fucking god.
A lot of the things they have in common are popular fantasy tropes and ideas from real-world histories and mythologies. So while some influence from A Song of Ice and Fire clearly exists, it'd be unfair to say Bethesda just copied George R. R. Martin's homework. Regardless, the parallels between the two created a synergy that benefited both properties. They acted as a sort of funnel to the other, and given that Game of Thrones was such a massive gateway into fantasy for so many new people, I think this was especially beneficial for Skyrim. Whenever someone, whether it be a longtime fantasy fan or a person newer to the genre, wanted to play or experience something that felt similar to Game of Thrones, Skyrim was the obvious choice.
I'm so fucking mad right now that I didn't watch Game of Thrones back bro, because I was playing Skyrim all the time, and it makes sense so much because every time a new Game of Thrones season comes out, I tend to like start a new Skyrim playthrough to get excited for like that, you know, that feeling like that. Wow, this everything's clicking. It all makes sense now.
The time came anywhere close to matching the show's scope and tone until The Witcher 3 came out in 2015.
I need to play this game. Okay, if everything's clicking, I've never played this game. I need to play this.
Skyrim was the closest thing there was to a Game of Thrones game, and that's kind of wild as there actually was a Game of Thrones game, and it was something. While
Whoa, what was that? What kind of something? What are we talking about?
And that's kind of wild, as there actually was a Game of Thrones game, and it was something.
Xbox 360. 52? Oh, wait. Ooh, that's a user score. 5.2. Not good.
While this synergy was largely coincidental,
Sheesh.
Bethesda did see...
I bet IGN gave it a 7, though.
Really capitalize on it with their marketing, most notably with the live action trailer that came out a few weeks before the game did.
Oh, this one's so hard.
Very Game of Thrones coded. Honestly, it could have easily been mistaken for a season 2 teaser trailer. When asked about the similarities, Pete Hines, Bethesda's former VP of marketing and communications, said, "If people say that looks like Game of Thrones, we're in the right place in terms of mood and vibe and tone.
Yep.
If that's the impression we're leaving, that's
Game of Thrones doesn't own the fantasy genre. Come on now. Come on now.
a good thing, as opposed to this must be for some new video
Only one could claim the fantasy genre is Tolkien. That motherfucker invented that shit, and guess what? Everybody uses it to this day. Everyone.
game. By airing a trailer that evoked a similar feel to the show, it signaled to anyone who had watched Game of Thrones, if you like that kind of storytelling, you'll like this as well.
Yeah.
Now, Skyrim's success with more casual gamers can't solely be attributed to the Game of Thrones effect.
You know what's annoying? I really wish, this bugs the shit out of me. I really wish that how Tolkien invented the, the fantasy genre type style and all these, different elements like orcs and goblins and all that kind of stuff. I really wish, and people still, they use it everywhere, God of War, not God of War, War of Warcraft, a bunch of different games, right? I'm not going to go list them all, but I wish it was the same way for Star Wars. The fact that there's so many, like, I don't know for sure, but there's so many, like, a lightsaber in the Force and all this kind of shit. It's like you don't see that in anything else. And if you do see a lightsaber, it's fucking stupid looking. It looks scuffed. It doesn't sound right. It's annoying as fuck. I just wish that shit could be in other properties. So annoying, because that's the only reason Star Wars is alive today, in my opinion. Like, if someone else could do the same shit and have their own elements, copy and paste or put a twist on it, but it still have it similar, bro, there'd be so many fucking... I just don't think Star Wars would be as influential that it is today. God, I can't speak right now. I'm sorry,
guys. It certainly
guys.
helped, as fantasy had never been more in demand than
Goodness
it was
gracious.
during the show's run, but there's way more to it than that. Not to mention, Bethesda wasn't just looking to bring in fans of Game of Thrones, they wanted to go well beyond.
Yeah.
And in their effort to do that, they ran one of the most effective marketing campaigns of all time. Even with the popularity of the genre growing, Bethesda still faced the challenge of figuring out how to market a high fantasy game to a mainstream audience. In a talk that a few members of Skyrim's marketing team gave at the Game Marketing Summit in 2012, they discussed how they didn't want to apologize for what the game was, but did want to find a way to present it that felt more approachable. To do this, instead of featuring the wide range of mechanics in the game, they leaned more into Skyrim's cinematic elements. This is evident with the live action trailer, but it also can be seen with the game's official trailer.
There
There's
he is.
narration about a coming threat, cuts between an intricately carved wall that seemingly contains some sort of prophecy.
Bro, I've gone back so many times and watched the trailer and the promo for all this. Bro, it fucking slaps, man. It gets me going every time.
A person running and something that seems to be chasing them, and it culminates with a confrontation between a dragon and the game's hero. It then pulls out and shows off many of the locations across the world, as well as the various ways you can fight against the threats you'll face. After an action-packed montage, it cuts back to the hero who defeats the dragon and absorbs its power, an experience you'd expect to be exceedingly rare, but then the camera pushes out again, showing a stunning landscape with another dragon casually perched on some old ruins. Not only does this provide viewers with an easy little story to follow and be intrigued by, but it also shows off how much bigger the world is than this single moment.
It's so big. Bro, it is so big. I that's the part that I can't get over, is looking back on how big the freaking map for Skyrim it is crazy, man.
It promises a game with countless epic encounters, with a new dragon around every corner, an experience that is bigger than you can imagine.
Yep.
The cinematic approach allowed them to portray the fantastical elements of the world in game in a way that didn't feel like nerd shit, but for the nerds watching, they could easily see all of the nerd shit within it, making it effective for both audiences. One issue with presenting a limited view of a game in this way is that buyers may feel lied to when they get their hands on it and it doesn't end up playing anything like they thought it would. But Skyrim largely avoided this, where a lot of cinematic trailers at the
Oh my god, I can't stand this. He's on the point with this video. Oh my god, I am a huge Star Wars fan. I was raised on this shit. Dude, I remember vividly the first time I was watching the trailers for the Old Republic. I think it's called Old Republic, right? It's, yeah, because Knights of the Old, yeah, it's Old Republic. Dude, I was so excited to play this fucking game. So excited. Oh my god. And then my sister played it. And I saw the gameplay for it, and I was pissed. I was so fucking mad because I saw this video and I expected the game. I thought it was gonna be like KOTOR or like Battlefront 2, but the updated graphics were gonna be like this. And then I realized that it was not like this at all. It was just cinematics. So I've watched the fucking cinematic movies over and over again, like probably 5 times. They're awesome, but dude, the expectation versus the reality you get pissed me off so much with this game.
Time didn't really resemble the gameplay or even visuals of the
look at that.
Title in the slightest. Skyrim's was made in engine, so what people saw largely was what they ended up getting.
True.
Also, even though the majority of the game is filled with slower moments, there are still plenty of these epic encounters, and as so many of them are unscripted, they're always exciting to come across. Furthermore, these slow moments that the game is kind of defined by help accentuate the ones that aren't. The downtime is a necessary part of making them feel special. It just doesn't make for the best advertising. The trailer presents a version of Skyrim many players might think they want, one filled with constant action and adventure, and then the game provided them with one that most would actually want, one still with tons of action and adventure, but also enough time to breathe in between so it never becomes exhausting. This same philosophy was also utilized by the marketing team in regards to how they rolled out information. Instead of constantly promoting the game, they valued restraint, aiming to keep information low in the hopes that, in the words of Aaron Losey, Bethesda's current VP of Global Marketing and Communications, they would keep people hungry for more content. The campaign started on December 11th, 2010 with the announcement trailer, and was followed by the official trailer a few months later. But after that, they scaled back a fair bit to not oversaturate their messaging. They showed off a few demos at events, but for a good while, there wasn't a ton of information about the game beyond the main trailers. This strategy offered tons of room for speculation and intrigue, causing a lot of conversations about the game to be fan-driven as opposed to marketing-driven. And it worked. People talked about it regularly and even started memeing about aspects of the game well before it released. This kind of strategy has become pretty popular with established studios, as once a series has found success, there will likely be a base of fans that can be relied on to generate hype for whatever is next. By not revealing too much, it allows players to imagine all the possibilities of how it might be to play and avoids running the risk of fans becoming worn out from hearing about it too much. Yeah. This is what FromSoft and Bandai Namco did with Elden Ring, it's what Nintendo did with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and it's what Rockstar is currently doing with GTA 6.
It's such a great method. It really is, because the wonder and the speculation just rises. Oh my god, this is in Elden Ring and GTA 6 do it perfectly. Like, well, I haven't heard really much since we got the first trailer for GTA 6. I haven't heard any new information coming out. I saw rumors on Twitter, you know, for the next couple months, but like, I don't believe in those. You know, I have no idea. Yeah, dude, I can't really speak much to the hype for it because I didn't really notice it as a kid. 2010, I would have been 13 at the time. You know, raging and going crazy on Halo and COD, so.
After the success of Oblivion as well as Fallout 3, Bethesda was more popular than ever, and so the anticipation...
I played the fuck out of Fallout, though. That shit went so hard. And then when I found out that because like I told you, in the scenario, when I found out, or saw the game being played for the first time, it must have been in the first year, because I was really young back then. I remember when we went to that event. When I found out that it was made by Bethesda, the same people that made Fallout, because I loved Fallout 3 so much, and bro, New Vegas was crazy good. It honestly might be my favorite Fallout. I don't know. I would have to think about that. But yeah, man, I was like, what? Wait, the people that made Fallout made this game? Like, oh my god.
So what they did next was high. By only giving sparse updates, they were able to stoke the anticipation, always leaving people wanting more, and then right before release, ramped things up dramatically. It was in this final push that they released the live action trailer, as well as a bunch of informational ones aimed at more dedicated fans, providing material for folks belonging to all the various demographics they were targeting. And during that span, it was hard for Skyrim not to be on the brain. Along with their successful ads, they also threw a lot of stuff at the wall to see what might stir up conversation. The wildest of which being an offer they issued 9 months before the game came out, where anyone who had a kid on Skyrim's release date and named them Dovahkiin would get free Bethesda games for the rest of their life, which frankly was a bad deal then and is a worse deal now. But of course, someone did it.
Oh my god.
Bethesda's marketing campaign paid off massively, with Skyrim selling 10 million copies in its first month, surpassing Oblivion's lifetime sales. And the team racked up all sorts of marketing awards as well. It helped expose the game to a new audience and drew them in enough to actually buy it, while also still catering to their longtime fans.
I really think that word of mouth played a huge part in this game's success as well.
Now, no matter how timely or well marketed a title is, if the game itself is terrible, it will have a short lifespan. So based on what I said about its major mechanics before, you'd think Skyrim would have suffered that same fate.
Hell no, baby. Bro, this game had soul and charm to it, bro. I think it did, at least.
Especially because those complaints aren't all that unique. People have been bringing them up since it came out, and I've even seen plenty of diehard fans admit that many of them are shortcomings. But despite that, Skyrim has never stopped thriving. People love playing it, even though it has problems.
Yeah.
After starting a new playthrough of the game and approaching it with as open of
I love this cutscene, right? But I know there's a couple of y'all that feel the same way. I am so, like, when you start up the game, it's so fucking annoying. Oh my god, it's like this I'm fucking just running through shit, bro. Like, know everything, bro, easy as fuck. Like, man, it's still fun though.
In my estimations, at least.
And I think, yeah, you could spawn in different places too now with mods and stuff like that, which is awesome.
Most of the ways in which Skyrim is quote-unquote bad were designed that way in order to be approachable to the wide audience they had just captured. There's this talk I think about a lot from Derek Yu, the designer of the Spelunky series, where he discusses the idea of spiky design versus soft design. Okay. Essentially, spiky design is stuff that causes friction.
Got Zubats in this. What is it, Pokemon? Uh-oh, someone might get a patent sued.
For the player that sometimes feels unintuitive, but gets them in a state of focus and at its best creates this sense that they are in a world that could exist without them. Where soft design is stuff that prioritizes player comfort, always aiming to avoid negative emotions in regards to interactivity so that players have a smooth experience. All games contain some amount of both types of design, but generally lean one way or the other. Skyrim has a ton of soft design. Many of its mechanics feel frictionless. That's not to say there are never obstacles that slow the player down or even halt their progress, but for the most part, all of its major systems are easy to engage with and can be engaged with regardless of the type of character you've made. So even though I find the combat to be shallow and boring, the fact that it isn't skill-based means pretty much any player can succeed in fights as long as they have potions on hand and keep upgrading their perks and gear. It's not the most engaging, but it also doesn't box many players out of progressing. With the role-playing, as many choices boil down to simple binaries with somewhat predictable outcomes, it lessens the risk of decision fatigue, and also players don't have to worry nearly as much on how a choice might impact them moving forward. In general, there isn't much the player can get locked out of based on their choices, with the exception of the Civil War questline doing something for—
Bro, that shit is goated. That might be my favorite quest line, honestly.
One faction won't stop you from doing something for another, so there rarely are meaningful consequences to actions, which is appealing to those who worry about missing things and messing up their game. Ultimately, a lot of design in Skyrim seems to be centered around the player always moving forward and progressing in one way or another. Like, this is why it has level scaling. It makes it so that in most cases, if the player finds a quest they want to do, they can do it right away. For those who just want to do the main quest, that's an option, and for those who want to do whatever random tasks they stumble across, that is too.
That's also a huge reason this game sold so well and people still love it today, because there's so many side quests that people never even played. Like, randomly I'll have a YouTube video pop up and it'll be some random ass video about some random ass side quest that I never played, and I think it's fucking hilarious, it's cool, and that adds to like the mysteries, like what else is out there that I haven't done, right?
And the softness of Skyrim doesn't stop there. It can be seen with the simplicity of the puzzles and the ability to engage with any skills and the leveling system in general. In a lot of ways, Skyrim doesn't want to get in the player's way. It wants to get them through the door in the hopes that they'll stay a while. And I think this was more than enough for a large portion of the player base, especially the more casual gamers Skyrim was able to bring in. A lot of them just want to—
So pretty much is the opposite of a Dark Souls game. That's what I'm getting from this.
Something mildly engaging that they could sink a lot of hours into over a long period of time, and Skyrim provided just that.
Yeah.
It's a rare single-player game that can compete with multiplayer titles in terms of potential worthwhile playtime. I still believe that Skyrim would have been a much better game if its combat and role-playing asked for more from players, but I also think far more people would have bounced off of.
That's why I'm kind of nervous about Elder Scrolls 6, because that's the biggest thing. Like, we want to have our cake and we want to eat it too. Like, they're gonna have to, the gameplay's gonna have to be a lot better. It's just gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be a lot better. And Starfield's gameplay isn't gonna cut it. Like, some people might love Starfield's gameplay, you know. I mean, it was good enough for me to play 20 minutes of it, right? And then I started exploring. In Skyrim, if you explore, you'll find just random shit, man. You'll find the most random shit. You'll find some kind of destination that's like, oh, what is this? You know? I mean, Starfield didn't have that, because it's probably because they had so many fucking worlds. But like, still, like, I'm kind of worried about Elder Scrolls 6, man. 2010? Wow. 14 years ago.
If that were the case. With all that said, Skyrim's long-term appeal is deeper than it being designed in a way that is approachable to everyone.
Yeah.
While it certainly leans pretty heavily on the side of soft design, it does have a fair bit of spiky design as well, a lot of which helps accentuate my favorite bits of the game. For instance, it does a lot of stuff that cultivates a powerful sense of place. Every object in the game is a physical thing that can be interacted with. They can be picked up and moved around, which doesn't really serve much of a purpose, but the interactivity.
Hell yeah, you put that bucket on someone's head, you can steal their shit. That's a purpose to me.
Feels nice regardless. Presenting items in this way often makes it slower to collect them, as they aren't just bundled up in a glowing light that you know will be worthwhile to grab. Yeah. Instead, you need to sift through things, picking.
And I love that. We talked about it the other day on the Pokemon. I don't know what video it was, but we were talking about Pokemon, the last one that came out. It had the open world, it was Arceus, and it had just those random ass lights just in the field where items were, and it was pretty much just get you to go to that spot, right? And they're all just scattered around like it's a fucking Easter egg field or some shit, and you gotta go pick up all the shiny Easter eggs. I hate that. I want to search and, you know, feel like I have a purpose, feel like I'm, you know, having some kind of strategy to whatever I'm doing, not just fucking aimlessly wandering around. Oh, there's another light, let me go there, like I'm a fucking pigeon seeing a shiny light or some shit, right? I love that aspect, because you get to sift through. It's like, okay, I want to get like potions. I'll take those if I'm stealing stuff, because I'm gonna actually use those. But I don't want to steal weapons unless I, you know, am able to sell stolen goods. I don't want to do that. You know, I want to just take stuff I can sell or need
one by one, which in some cases, like when there are a dozen gold pieces on a table, can feel excessive. But it also creates an almost tactile sense to the things you're engaging with.
It gives you
purpose.
Have to
spot what you might need and decide what's actually useful and what will just waste space in your inventory.
And then there's also the, oh wait, did I make a wrong turn because I've never been here before? Let me go back and make sure I didn't forget anything. And this just compiles time and time and time into the game. And then next thing you know, it's like, wait a second, it's already fucking 3 o'clock in the morning? Holy shit, how long have I been playing this for?
Honestly,
it's one of those games,
system
man.
In general pushes you to always think about the items you're carrying.
Yep.
I do have issues with how it's incorporated, but at the very least, it promotes some level of thoughtfulness about what you're grabbing. I think it could be argued that
I like the UI in Skyrim a lot better than like any of the Fallout games, honestly. It's smooth, it's straight to the point, and it looks good.
Game's reliance on menuing also adds to this feeling, as even with hotkeys, there are so many items and abilities you'll likely cycle between that you'll never cover them all. So whether it be the favorites menu or the main menu, you'll be pausing the action regularly and scrolling through everything you have, as there is no real way to sort stuff to get to the things you want to.
That's true. You should be able to put stuff to the top.
Use, in theory, reminding you about all the other things you have at your disposal.
But you can't favorite stuff, which I mean, like, come on.
While these breaks in action can be annoying, they also lead to some incredible moments where you notice something far more useful in your inventory than what you were looking for that helps you overcome a challenge. Furthermore, even though the game scales to your level, there are some enemies placed around the world with set levels.
Bro, these things are annoying as fuck. Especially when you're not over leveled. Dude, this shit's so annoying.
And others who start at a much higher level than the Dragonborn before they start scaling. This leads to some big difficulty spikes where you need to figure out how.
Them fucking, was it 9,000 stairs or whatever? Them bitches fucking, you feel every one of them.
to deal with an enemy that
Golly,
you don't
walking
have a
up
good
that
chance
thing.
of defeating by typical means. On this playthrough, I was given a quest from the companions to take out some vampires, and it all felt like an appropriate challenge until just before the end, where a master vampire blocked my way. As I was far under his level and had no shot of out damaging him, I instead kited him over to a ledge, charmed him so he wouldn't be hostile, lined things up as best as I could, and then somewhat messily knocked him off. And it felt so good to do. Admittedly, more often than not, these spikes will probably push players to just run away, but they can also spur creative thinking, which makes them valuable. The dragon attacks are another example of this. When they pop up, your travels become far more treacherous, and it can lead to some interesting interactions. Like when a blood dragon attacked me as I was running by a giant and the two of them started fighting.
Oh my god, that's the best feeling. And it just makes the experience so much better. When the environment, when you have different fucking mobs and they start attacking each other, that's what intrigued me the most, I think, from the new Monster Hunter game. When I saw them actually fighting within each other, I was blown away. Like as a kid, when I played Pokemon, I always imagined like a open world Pokemon game. You know, I always imagined just running up on like a random ass like Nidoking fighting whatever. And dude, this, oh my god, I love this. It really feels like you're in the game and you just stumbled upon these fucking monsters going at it.
I stood from a distance doing what I could to support my new giant friend.
Oh,
this all adds a layer of excitement to what can often be just a dull walk. Honestly, even the fact that the game doesn't have interesting movement mechanics means your focus will mostly be on just looking around, helping you get a better lay of the land and appreciate the beauty of the place you're in. I'm not saying all of these things are perfectly done. I'm not even saying that Bethesda incorporated every single one of them with this exact result in mind, but I do think their friction has an effect, and for the most part that effect makes players consider the space they are in and the various things that are in it in a way a lot of games don't. Skyrim's major mechanics are soft, making it massively approachable, but many of its minor...
From this video, I'm feeling a certain theme that the things that it does bad, it does it good enough so just to get by, right? It does it good enough to get by and appreciate the game.
Ones are spiky, creating a thorough connection between the player and the world without running the risk of them getting stuck. This, mixed with Skyrim's massive scope, creates a unique kind of immersion, one that is more concerned with the small moments than the big ones. But as there are so many small moments to be had, it all adds up to something more substantial.
Oh wow.
There are so many...
He said that so well. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Interactions to experience. You can
that scene's so crazy.
Almost any place you see. You can grab a fish from a line. You can pick up a mug from a table. You can find ants crawling on tree stumps.
What? I never knew this. Oh my gosh.
You can drop something on the ground and it will still be there 20 hours later.
You can kill somebody and the bodies are just gonna be laying in the street. You go back to Whiterun or whatever it is and they still laying in the street. They ain't got no flies on them. People still walking by them like, oh, what is that? And they just keep on walking.
There are roaring rivers, lush forests, and northern lights that paint the night sky.
Oh, the best is when you go all the way to the top and you're looking down on Skyrim. Oh my god. It's so beautiful.
Characters go about their lives regardless of if you are there and have conversations with each other about insignificant things. And every moment is accompanied by impeccable sound design and an all-timer soundtrack. Frankly, a lot of this stuff doesn't really matter in terms of what could be considered the core of the game. They aren't part of the gameplay loop, and most don't even serve a functional purpose, but they are still there and can be encountered everywhere. Even though the combat and role-playing don't feel like they have much weight to them, the world itself does. It feels alive. And while the game does frequently show its seams and break the powerful sense of immersion it builds so well, it never takes long to slip back into it by coming across something new. In the documentary You're Finally Awake, 9 developers recount the making of Skyrim, there's a quote from Dennis Mahiones, one of the game's character artists, that I keep coming back to, which is, it's not that we did any one thing first or any one thing better, it's that we did it all for the first time. The thing is, it's not just that they did it all for the first time, it's also that no other game has really done it all again since.
Facts. There's a huge void, and I thought Starfield would deliver on this end, but they didn't. They did something different completely, not just the actual atmosphere, but it's not a Skyrim game, you know? No other game has even come close to that, and that's I think that's the reason they haven't done Skyrim 6, because they're nervous they're gonna fuck it up, or Elder Scrolls 6. Sorry, my bad. Because this is such an ambitious product. It's just, oh my god, I'm so excited for the next one, but I'm so nervous because I don't even know when that thing's gonna come out. Like, we've seen a teaser trailer, which is just a freaking rendering, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know, man.
At least not to the same degree. And
no,
this
they haven't.
is the other major reason I think Skyrim continues to be so popular to this day. No other game feels like it.
Nope.
Sure, plenty of open world titles have incorporated ideas from Skyrim, but the vast majority of them have taken far more influence from the likes of Assassin's Creed and Grand Theft Auto. Most are action focused, have third-person perspectives, and offer far less unnecessary interactivity. This makes leaner games that are often more fun to play on a moment-to-moment basis, but they lack the slow burn that makes Skyrim Skyrim.
I also think, I don't know what those games he just showed because I haven't played them. I actually got a copy in today from eBay. I've never played this game before. I used to have it, but they have a remastered edition coming on. Yeah, I hate when I order a freaking DVD or a game and it's freaking loose in there, just wobbling around. But it's a Blu-ray, so it shouldn't scratch, right? It's not like the good old days. But you get kind of the same effect with the first person mode, because you can have a silent protagonist kind of in a way, and you don't really see them. Obviously you can go into third person mode if you want to see your character, but a lot of the time, you know, in combat and stuff like that, I'm not doing that. I'm in first person, and it's just it really makes it feel like you're actually in the game, right? When you see your character walk around and stuff like that, it's cool for like a cinematic experience, but I don't know. I think that silent protagonist character in this world, making you really feel like you're in the world, it just helps just immerse you into the game so much better. And these games, they look like they're just third-person games. I guarantee Horizon doesn't have a first-person mode because they want you to see her character.
What I've come to realize through replaying Skyrim and talking to others about it is that for a lot of people, the reason they keep coming back isn't because they want to defeat Alduin or become the head of the Thieves Guild. It's not because they care about maxing out their armor.
Bro, the Thieves, bro, that shit is crazy. That quest line is wild. That might be up there too for one of the best. And that's probably some of their best writing, to be honest.
Or getting the most powerful spells. It's that they just want to recapture the wonder of being part of a fantastical world that feels realized in a unique way, that isn't always concerned with every aspect adding to the gameplay. They might want to experience this for just 1 hour, or they might want to for 100, but ultimately it is less about the experience of playing through the game than it is about playing in it. For these reasons and more, Skyrim has created a loyal following. By appealing to a massive audience but delivering an experience that...
And notice in this video, I haven't seen one time him play in third person. I'm just pointing that out. I could be wrong, but I don't think he has.
In significant ways, they hooked millions of people. And many of those people are willing to buy multiple versions of the game so that they can keep stepping back into an experience only it really offers.
Bro, do not buy the Switch edition unless you have amazing eyesight. Do not do it. I bought it. Waste of my money. Like, it's cool that I have it and I can play it wherever, because, you know, I take the Switch wherever, but now I have it in my Steam Deck, so I can do the same thing with that. But dude, the font on there is so small. I can't read that shit to save my life. And I was so pissed because, you know, the subtitles in the game is, you know, in the UI and all that kind of stuff. You need to look at that stuff. So yeah, it was worthless to me.
Many also have the desire to regularly mod it in order to get a fresh experience of what they first fell in love with.
Yeah, the first mods I used was the lightsaber mods. That shit went hard.
Honestly, Skyrim is kind of the perfect game to be modded because it has so many systems with the potential of being far more interesting than they currently are. And Bethesda deserves a ton of credit for recognizing that their fans would want to mod the game and providing tools to help them do it more easily.
True.
Skyrim rides an interesting...
If anything, that's the biggest accomplishment. The accessibility to mods, it 100%. And I cannot stand when companies like do not want you to mod their game. It's like, you don't want us to help add to the game. It's like, come on, bro. What are you doing here? You want people to play your game or not? Like, what?
Of being for everyone and for no one. I can't say examining it in this way has made me fall in love with it. I do still find myself wishing it was a much better game. or at least more suited for my tastes. But also, I think there is a ton of value in it being an entry point to video games, or at least these kinds of video games for so many people.
100%.
Skyrim came out at a perfect time to reach a new audience, and Bethesda did a stellar job in grasping that audience and designing a game that wouldn't push them away, while also putting in enough jagged edges to make things feel meaningful.
I really think for a lot of people, this could have been the first game that like they played in a fantasy style setting, and it introduced them to so many mechanics that are used in fantasy style games, like, you know, the mana, magic gauge, all that kind of stuff. So for me, actually, it wasn't this game. I think I played Lord of the Rings, if you would consider that. Those games went so hard, especially Two Towers and Return of the King. I think Two Towers was probably the best one, though. I played Return of the King multiple times, though, because I love that movie. So, of course, I'm going to play the game a lot.
It's worth revisiting because, in ways, it feels like a real place.
Yeah.
A place you'd be lucky to see with your own two eyes. A place that begs the question, why not Skyrim?
Why not? Why not us? What's this? Ooh. Got too much.
If you also hate getting over encumbered, you should check out this video sponsor, Bellroy. Bellroy makes tons of awesome products that are
this video went hard.
You organized and looking stylish. I use Bellroy stuff
Skyrim.
all the time. The sling has become a part of my everyday carry, as well as this wallet, which somehow is able to hold all of my cards without being a bulky mess. For bigger trips, I have a backpack with more secret pockets than you can imagine.
After traveling with Linda for 70 hours, we came
like
across a cave number 997, and she said, "Oh, I wonder what's in that cave," and that is why Skyrim.
By using sustainable materials like Ecotan leather and recycled nylon. Bellroy has become my go-to.
Skyrim kind of feels like a dream. You even wake up at the beginning. You can stay as long as you want, do whatever you want. Nothing has real consequences. The ultimate escape.
Whatever it is, I'd be willing to bet that it will help you in one way or another. So yeah, thanks to Bellroy for sponsoring this video.
Thank you, Bellroy.
Here. Hi. I'd like to thank my patrons for making this channel possible. It goes further than you know. I hope you all have a great day and or night, and I will see you in the next one.
This video deserves a like. If you're watching still, go like his video. It was an awesome video. Dude deserves a subscribe for sure. Razbuten. I've never seen his videos, but this video was persistently in my feed constantly. But yeah, I reacted to it a little bit. I'm really excited to hear some news about Elder Scrolls 6. I haven't heard anything. I think the last time, I think old dude did a interview, and I watched that, and I think he talked about it briefly. But that was before Starfield came out, if I remember correctly. So it was pretty much talking about Starfield. But yeah, man, this is an awesome video. I think Skyrim is goated, in my opinion. It obviously has a lot of nostalgia because it was one of the first games that really drove me into this fantasy element. But I'm just thinking now, I'm like, Elden Ring, obviously. And Elden Ring, I think, is a much better game than Skyrim. Trying to think of other like fantasy games that top this. I haven't played any Dark Souls games. Like, Skyrim's up there for one of the best fantasy games ever. Like, there's obviously, like, fantasy, like, you know, Harry Potter and stuff like that. But I'm thinking, like classic. I can't think of anything that would top Skyrim. The only thing I can think of is Elden Ring. So if you can think of any games that are better in this setting, let me know down below in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Your boy Trey Swish. I didn't introduce myself earlier, so yeah, I'm Trey Swish. You check out the channel, and maybe subscribe, you know, if you like the content. So we will be talking about Skyrim here soon. I really want to dive into Elden Lords. Oh my god, E6, Elder Scrolls 6. I'll see y'all guys in the next one. Peace. Yeah, I need to work on the outro. That was rough.